Let's pick up Linda. We love Linda.
I'm alive and well, and I called for several reasons. A, to wish you congratulations on 10 years. I hope it's 10
Amazing.
years more. B, to wish you a belated happy birthday, because your birthday is the day after my husband's, which is July the 4th. And
Wow.
every year I have to listen to how the country is celebrating his birthday. And after 37 years, it's not as charming as it was in the first year. And when you're young and in love, everything is charming. And then after, so many years.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Luby. Now on The Defo Show.
Stay away from my window. Stay away.
How quickly the flowers are into punch when it comes to romance. Very true, Linda. Welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz with you. 940 Winz, 1230 The Zone, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. These are certainly unusual times. Who knew that Chuck Woolery would soon become a modern-day Louis Pasteur or a Dr. Jonas Salk and become an authority on pandemics and epidemics and things of this nature? We're all battling this COVID-19. The sporting world is certainly wondering what to do and how to process all of these things. And we're joined right now by the lovely Lauren Pasquale, who is the Vice President of Marketing for Fastaff Travel Nursing, and they're very much immersed in trying to take care of these athletes. Lauren, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Good morning, Defo. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, and this is a very interesting concept. Explain a little bit about what you're doing. I know you guys have been doing some work with the PGA Tour, and they have been very careful in following protocols. They've still had some positive tests with players. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with Fastaff Travel Nursing and why it's so important for all of these sporting entities to try and get off the ground and get their seasons going.
Sure. Well, Fastaff Travel Nursing is a rapid response healthcare staffing provider. So typically we are providing nurses, really high acuity nurses, in urgent and crucial situations like hurricanes. We were down there with Hurricane Irma a few years ago, floods, fires, flu outbreaks, the Ebola outbreak in New York, and now, of course, coronavirus. So for the last 4 months, we've had thousands of nurses all over the country flying into hospital assignments and short-term assignments treating coronavirus patients and then leaving when that hospital census goes down. And in the sporting world, this came up around Memorial Day as the PGA was rethinking how they were going to open safely, even without spectators. Their screening and solutions company, S2 Global, realized that they wanted to have more healthcare providers at every single entryway station to provide temperature checks and just indicate when they might have a concern about a player or caddy or grounds crew. So Fastaff Travel Nursing has been sending nurses to every single one of the PGA tournaments and the Korn Ferry Challenges for the last month or so, and those nurses are at every entry point giving temperature checks to everybody who enters that facility.
With your experience, and we've seen a few players, a handful of players test positive for COVID-19 on the PGA Tour, and they've had to drop off and be quarantined for a while. Caddies, some of the other people, I mean, it's been somewhat limited, but obviously, so you would have to think that the protocols, for the most part, are working. What's the general feeling? And is there a breaking point where, somebody, that's involved with the PGA or the NHL or the NBA would just have to scrap their plans to play and throw in the towel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. I think there is a breaking point, probably more specifically for the larger leagues with more players like the NFL. But I don't think the PGA has hit that breaking point. As you say, they have had three players test positive and 5 other caddies and other service personnel. So it's not that the virus is not there. It's just that they're taking all the proper precautions and protocols. So all 3 of those players quarantined for 10 days, didn't show symptoms, and then stayed off the tour for another couple events. I think they're coming back this week in Dublin and also in San Antonio. So I think as long as they have the right protocols in place to deal with it when you get a positive case, that's just the world we're living in, Defo. I think this is what we should expect.
I'm coming to you from the off-lease-only studios. Defo's coming to you from the Barefoot Beach Villas Verbal Laboratory here in 941 Southern Zone. In the iHeartRadio app, talking with Lauren Pasquale, VP of Marketing for Fastaff Travel Nursing. Lauren, you brought up that your nurses are stationed and they're doing the temp checks, and it's funny, a lot of the places we're going to these days are doing the temp checks. But I don't ever see them get a temp that's high and an issue, which is great. Thank God I'm lucky enough I'm around people that aren't, I guess, an issue. What happens when they get someone that is too high or a temperature that's an issue? Is that person immediately, kicked off the tour? Like, what are some of the things that are being handled by your nurses and some of your staff that, we're missing and that is keeping the PGA and some of these other leagues safe?
Well, the process, Luby, is this. The players, the caddies, the grounds crew, they all come through these entry points, depending on the tour. I was at TPC Sawgrass, and there were 3 different entry points down there in Ponte Vedra. Okay. So the car drives right up to a tent. At the tent, you have our nurses who are wearing masks, gloves. There are a couple guys there who work the entryway. And when they do the temperature check, they do it in the car. So if the player or the driver of the car, whoever's in that car, registers a temperature above 100.4, that car is pulled over. They have that person come sit in the tent for a few minutes, and that's when our nurses' expertise really kicks in. Some of these nurses are coming off COVID assignments. Oh, wow. They take a break in between, but they can notice symptoms. They look at that patient, or as it were, the player, the person. They look at that person. They do a little bit of an evaluation, and then they take the temperature inner ear thermometer, which is more accurate. And you're right; it's pretty rare that the temperatures are elevated. However, if they are, the person working that event, it could be media, it could be grounds crew, it could be service personnel, they're asked to leave the facility, and then, of course, they're encouraged to go get medical attention. If it's a player, the player or caddy actually have to see a PGA doctor, and they take it from there. So that's the process. And that's not the only way. Temperature checks, as you know, are not the only way to scan for this virus, but it's a first layer of defense before anyone even parks their car and walks into the clubhouse.
Lauren Pasquale with us, Vice President of Marketing for Fastaff Travel Nursing, working closely with the PGA on helping them try and monitor and keep COVID-19 from becoming an unfortunate shutdown again of what they're trying to accomplish, which, as you've said, Lauren, they're doing a decent job of this. How stressful is this for the people of Fastaff Travel Nursing? I mean, you mentioned that they're in hospitals and then going to other assignments. I mean, it seems like a real danger zone. How stressful has it been? Because many of the most touching stories have been from people that are in the hospitals working, trying to get people well and keep them from being overwhelmed by the COVID-19 virus. And it seems to take its toll on the people that are actually doing this work.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So take this whole PGA assignment out of their typical day, because I think they've really enjoyed that one. But what's really typical for our company, as mentioned, is sending them into the hospitals in critical assignments. So these nurses primarily are working in ICU, emergency rooms, operating rooms. And the amazing thing about our nurses, and this always blows me away, is that when there is a hurricane, when there is a flu, when coronavirus hit, they put their hands up. They start registering on our website 5 times more than they normally do. We've had more job applications in the last 4 months than in the history of the company. They're just like brave warriors who are not afraid to go into the new location. I was talking to a nurse on her way to Arizona a week ago, and the incidences there going right up. And she said she wasn't nervous at all about treating patients. She's like, oh, that's what I know how to do. I'm nervous about where am I going to park my camper? How am I going to get to work? She was just nervous about relocating to the city. But they feel very trained. Most of them are level 1 trauma experienced. They're going to work 48 hours. They're going to work 60 hours. But they are like the special forces of nursing, and they go in there for this kind of assignment.
To people who think this is not a very real threat to all of us, you would say what, Lauren Pasquale, from your experience?
I would. Yeah, and I'm not a medical professional, Defo, but I mean, just from, staring at the news all day long and consuming everything I've consumed, never seeing anything like this in our country, I think the threat is so real. And for me personally, if it means wearing a mask and washing my hands like crazy and avoiding some friends for a little while, I'm more than happy to do it. I don't want to see my parents in their 70s get sick. I don't want to see my friends who have lost their jobs, stay out of work. I think it's very real. I think we have to take it seriously. And the medical professionals I do talk to have always encouraged a lot of hand washing, social distancing, avoid large crowds if you can, and wear the mask in public. So I take their advice.
Lauren, before we let you go, I just want to ask, you just brought them up, and I was going to ask you about the medical professionals, because we're hearing a lot from people who are Twitter professionals, and even people like myself, and even like yourself, who you just admitted it. You're watching the news, but that's what you're doing. You talk to the medical professionals daily, And we've heard mixed reviews. Some states, and good for them, haven't been hit as hard, and thank heavens. Some states like ours have been. What have you heard from the medical professionals on the ground when it comes to the hospitals? Because you said that's primarily where you send your nurses. What have they said about how it's been COVID has affected the hospitals and what they've seen on the ground?
Yeah, great question. I've heard from our nurses that it's different. Our nurses, we typically have spikes in October, November, December, January, February, March with the flu season, and it's really typical that our nurses are very active at that time. What I've heard from them is that this is a much more vicious contagion, and when people go in with those symptoms, a lot of people, like luckily these golfers, have been more or less asymptomatic and they rest at home and they're fine. But the people who have to be hospitalized and go on these ventilators, from what the nurses are saying, the symptoms and what you suffer with is really extreme. So anybody who's got that morbidity or any risk or any pre-existing health conditions, they're really in a huge disadvantage. So I do hope that everybody, minds these protocols. Every morning I wake up hoping to hear about a vaccine, and I'm taking it very seriously. I hope we can do something about it soon.
All right, great job with the PGA. Very interesting. Lauren Pasquale, Vice President of Marketing for Fastaff Travel Nursing. Thank you so much for being with us. Very enlightening, and enjoyed talking with you. Best of luck with everything, and let's hope it all goes very well from here on out, and we get to see our sports and everybody stays safe. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, you guys. Have a good day.
All right, be safe. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Very well-spoken spokesperson for Fastaff Travel Nursing. Luby,
there you go.
working with the PGA. Working with the PGA.